Now we are going to talk about the different ways you can position elements, and they include static, relative, fixed, absolute, and sticky. When you position an element static in a static way, this Peter is not supposed to be here. It's supposed to be inside the body tag. Now, when you position an element statically, that means you do not add any special styling to it. Let's give it style of static. This div now, I'm going to give it a border so that you can see how it works. So you can see the different ways it works. I'm going to give it a lorem ipsum of 6. Lorem 6. Good. So let's style it with our style sheet. Static. Remember, I'm going to select class with the dot notation. Static. And we want the position to be static. Now we want the border. Want it to have a border to be solid. Let's get 2 pixels. Solid and red. Red is a very vibrant color. You cannot miss it when you see it. That's why I use red. Refresh. You should be down here, and yes, you can see it. So this is the static positioning. No special attributes whatsoever. It just goes with the same flow as the HTML page. Now let's try a different type of positioning. Let us try the relative position. Go back to your code and duplicate the div that we have here. This time around, we're going to give it the style of relative. That means you come here and create that style. I think I'm going to duplicate this and give it relative. Position of relative. Now what this one does is to position an element relative to its normal position. Now with this styling, you can give it an extra style of maybe left of 20 pixels. That means it's going to start from the left, but after 20 pixels. Let us check it out and see what it looks like. Good. You can see by it gave a gap of 20 pixels and then continued from there. Now let's stretch it out and see that it is taking the full width of the page because it's a block level element. So this is the static styling, this is the relative. Now let us move on to the fixed positioning. This fixed positioning is used in you notice that in some websites their navbar is fixed, it doesn't change. Whether you scroll up or down is just going to be there. So that's about fixed positioning. I'm going to put it up here so that when we scroll down you can see that the position is fixed. I'm going to put it right underneath this header so that you can see what I'm talking about. Come back to your HTML document, look for the H1 and div dot fixed 6. You do the same thing in your style sheet. You duplicate and then give it the name of fixed. Let's delete this. So let's see how that goes. You can see it's right on top of every other thing. You can see it's on top of every other thing. Good. It doesn't change. It's just fixed, as the name suggests. Good. There's still the class of absolutes and the class of sticky. I actually meant sticky when I was referring to nav bars that don't move. Sometimes, although for sticky nav bar, you have to be scrolling down. It works very well with the JavaScript logic. When you're scrolling down and you want the nav bar to pop up just as you're scrolling back up, so that the user can navigate easily to other parts of the web page. So that sticky positioning is actually very helpful or very useful. It helps to make the user experience more enjoyable, and that's what we want for ourselves, really. So let's do an example with the absolute position. Now, the absolute position, it works with a relatively positioned element. They both work hand in hand. For you to have an absolute position element, there must be a parent relative position, so that that absolute element will be positioned in relation to its parent element. So I'm going to um create two div elements, or I already have a relatively positioned element, so I'm going to just create a sub div inside of it. Give it a class of absolute. This one I'm going to give it a different color so that you can see the difference between the two. Let's go to our style sheet. I'll remove this left so as to take the normal flow of the web page. I'm working with absolutes this time around. I want it to be green, or let me say aqua, something that pops out. And I want it to have a right of 30, a right of 30 pixels top, that is from the top of its relative elements, top of 0. I want it to be at the very, very top. That means I'm going to give this element a height of about 200 pixels, and let's see how it looks. Remember, the parent element is going to be red and the child is green or aqua. You can see how it is. This is how to position an element. Absolutely. You can see that in some designs, there are some designs that you see and the images are kind of overlapping. Let me look for one of the designs. This isn't quite what I'm looking for, but yes, this one here is the closest description. You can see these images, they don't follow a particular order. They don't follow a particular order. Our absolute positioning can help create something like this. If you are trying to come up with this kind of design, you can use the absolute positioning to implement this. Although there are different ways you can actually get this same design. That's why programming and generally coding is beautiful. There are many solutions to one particular problem. It depends on how you want to tackle that problem. Okay, so we've seen the fixed positioning, we have seen the static positioning, we have seen the relative and the absolute. You can check the sticky one for yourself. Remember, you have resources like W3 Schools to check in your spare time. It's not everything that I'll show you. Some things you have to discover by your own self. Well, let's look at that position. Mm, let's look at sticky. Now you can see how the sticky works. You see, it's just stick at the top here. This is this is good when you want to. This is especially useful when you are working with nav bars and navigation elements. So that's that about positioning. For this Z index, for the Z index property, if you want an element to always appear in the front, you give it a Z index of a higher number. But if you want it to fall below, you give it a value of a lower number, obviously. And in this our example, in fact, let me use our own example. Let me use this one that we created here. Z index is quite simple. Just you know that things are usually arranged in form of uh they're usually arranged in form of layers. So the layer with the higher value, there's no Z index has no units like pixels or em. Just give it number 99 or 0 or 1 or even negative numbers. You can give the value as a negative number. Now let's give this our, what did I even call this position now? Fixed position. Let's give it a Z index of -1 and see if it falls behind the rest of these elements. Look for your fixed position and give it a Z index. Z index of -50.